Section 18, and the Governor's February 18th, 2022 revised order extending remote participation by all members in any meeting of a public body. This meeting, the Great Barrington Select Board, will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right and a requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. Pursuant to MGL 7C 30A Section 20F, after notifying the chair of the public body, any person may make a video or audio recording of an open session of a meeting of a public body or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Beginning of the meeting, the chair shall inform other attendees of any such recordings. This meeting is being recorded by the town of Great Barrington, by the Berkshire Edge, the Berkshire Eagle, and other members of the public. Any member of the public wishing to speak at the meeting must receive permission of the chair. The listing of agenda items are those reasonably anticipated by the chair, which may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. We'll start with Select Board's announcements and statements. Garfield.
Yes, I do have a statement that I had written that I would like to read. It's regarding the latest developments with the short-term rentals. So I want to state that I am dismayed that this important discussion on short-term rental has turned into a media favorite, along with pictures and quotes, and personal lives have been brought into this, and it's terrible that they had to be. Before I wrote this, I was asked to also, I'm sorry, I wanted to say that I also had to learn about my colleague in the newspapers. Before I wrote this, I was asked to check out the personnel policies and procedures of our select board. And I did that and making sure I was following the rules, writing this statement. And in that statement, in section 2, Department F, there is a statement for our select board members of which we are supposed to adhere to. It reads, not withhold relevant information on town matters, either from other select board members or from members of other town bodies or departments whose duties relate to this information. And I believe that this has happened here. I don't know if it was done purposely. I doubt it. If it was done with any malicious forethought, I doubt that as well. But this has happened here. And I think that, unfortunately, what I read in the papers was legal. I have no problem with what Ed has done legally. It's fine. But the problem that I have is that he's in a relationship that is very close here. They are related through, or excuse me, I'm a little nervous spitting this out, but they are indeed engaged.
Can you leave my personal relationships out of this, please?
I certainly will, but it was in the paper. That's the only reason why I made the statement, because it was also in the newspaper. That's the only reason why I said it.
Have a comment about me? That's fine.
Okay,
let's continue, Garfield, please.
All right. So again, they are engaged. Everyone knows that couples share things. This just happens to be a fact. If I buy the dining room table, my girlfriend buys the bedroom set. They are bought separately, but they're shared together. And I think couples sharing things is just the way it is. It's just common now, just the way it should be. And in this article, it did state that there had some things going on that appears that there was some sharing going on. And I just think that it would be hard for myself, and I think hard for anyone else, to remain impartial on a subject like this when they're so close to it. And I think that that keeps me from having the confidence here and wondering whether or not that colleague I'm speaking of can actually make an unbiased opinion on what's going on, being so close to the situation. I know it would be very hard for me. I'm not sure if I could.
Eric.
Yes, Steve. I guess kind of in regarding to the STR situation, I was just curious with the email we got earlier today from Allison. just regarding all sorts of conflicts of interest and how to move forward with that.
We are, the answer to that, first of all, there's no last name on that. We are moving forward as is, and we have no decision to stop.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Ed?
First of all, long before the short-term rental policy came to us, I contacted the Ethics Commission. We all know we should do that when something appears to be a conflict. I knew it appeared to be a conflict. That's why I called them. They said it was not a conflict. I did not need to recuse myself, but I did need to file a form, which I did file. So I did everything the Ethics Commission asked me to do. Another one of the policies the select board has is not to call each other out like this. So I apologize now for saying, I assume all select board members, when faced with a potential conflict, call the Ethics Commission. That's what we're required to do. I assume if you work for a liquor store, before you vote on a liquor store license twice, you call the Ethics Commission and recuse yourself, because as an employee, you don't have a choice. An employee is a conflict of interest. Good Friends is not. We do not share finances, so none of that was an issue. So I just want to say I followed the rules. Unlike other select board members, I didn't need to recuse myself. It was a ruling by the state, not by me, and I did what they asked me to do. As for the other issue, the email we got, we can talk about that, if I may, before that comes up. Okay.
You can talk about it now also, if you like.
Well, I got that email yesterday, and because it had a name on it, I knew if I had forwarded it to everybody, it'd be public, so I asked her. I suggested she forward it to everybody. But I called the Ethics Commission on that, and they said absolutely I had to recuse myself. So I will be recusing as an abutter to an Airbnb, and letting you know that Ethics told me I didn't have a choice.
Well, Ed, if we all have to recuse ourselves, then we can invoke the rule of necessity.
I looked that up also. The rule of necessity is only for things we have to vote on. Like
I disagree with you. How did Lennox, Stockbridge, and every other town get these through?
Okay, I will tell you what they told me, which is why I'm recusing myself, is that's not what the rule of necessity is about. It's very specific, and I'll look it up between now and then.
No, I don't disagree with you, but I think that was brought up to me a while ago, and it was very clear that other towns then have violated the open meeting law or the ethics law.
All right, I will be recusing myself because I was advised by the Ethics Commission to do so as an abutter.
So I'm going to make the decision right now, because it's been brought up and you did contact the Ethics Commission. I wish you had talked to me about this beforehand.
I didn't know you didn't know until just a few minutes ago.
I saw that 10 minutes ago. We will not be talking about short-term rentals tonight, and we will add that to the beginning. Let's see, today's Wednesday. We will be adding that as a revised agenda item to Monday night before the public discussion, as long as we can get a ruling from our attorney. So anyone who's on here for short-term rental discussion, I am not going to plow ahead and then find that we violated the ethics law. So we will hold on to that until Monday evening.
And I apologize. I thought it had been forwarded yesterday.
No, and I don't take much credence in an email that doesn't have a last name on it. That's a problem for me. You obviously know the person. I don't.
No, I don't. I know the last name because originally it had it on.
Yeah, this one doesn't. So
but I also checked, and the address near me is on there. I am an abutter.
Yeah, no, I've made it clear that I'm a abutter to Airbnbs also. So I made that very clear. Lee, go ahead. If you really want to.
Well, I just feel compelled, as someone that kind of initiated the discussion, can I just say in general, without naming names, or just where I am in this moment? Or should I wait?
You're more than welcome to say
whatever. So just to kind of pull back on what led me to initiate the discussion around short-term rentals, and this was back in fall, I think September, October, on the housing subcommittee that I'm a member of. I felt that some of the voices that I had been hearing deserved to be listened to and to be brought into a discussion about some of the impacts of short-term rentals. And I don't want to lose sight of the people that might not be the ones that are appearing at our select board meetings or writing letters or have, groups that are representing them. And I just want to make sure that we focus this discussion on what it means to be a community and where we want to be in years from now. So it saddens me to think that we're so polarized, because I think deep down we really want the best for our community. And it's not a black and white issue. It's a gray issue with many, many different levels and different approaches. And I would just like to see that this is centered back on what it means to be a community. And just listening to the discussion that Bridge brought into their training on Monday, that this had been a cause of concern a year ago with some of the clients that they work with about being displaced and their concerns about the impacts of short-term rental. So I do want to say that there has been some discussion on whether anecdotes are data and if we should even be taking some of these stories seriously. And my reaction to that is yes, people's stories should be listened to and should be given a voice on the select board. And despite the fact that we don't have a mechanism to take all the data and make colorful pie charts and spreadsheets and analyze it, I do think that it's something that needs to be discussed. And I'm thankful that out of all this, a discussion about housing is taking place. And I do want to focus again on the people that, are too busy or working too hard or have been evicted or displaced that aren't coming to the meetings and aren't having their voices heard, because I do think this is an issue that affects our entire community and it impacts people that aren't making it to the meetings. And, I'm very, very sorry that this has become such a polarization of our community. And I absolutely did not mean for this. And I do hope that in the end, there is some kind of middle ground that we meet in, because I think everyone that has spoken has a voice and has a story to tell. So I'm not trying to demonize short-term rentals. I'm not trying to belittle people or devalue what people say in terms of the benefits that they have from short-term rentals. But I do hope that there is a middle ground. And I'm very, very grateful to my colleagues on the select board and for all the residents that have brought their stories and their experiences, because I'm certainly learning a lot of more than I've ever wanted to learn about short-term rentals. And I hope that we can find a middle ground and that we do bring something to town meeting that can get a handle on this impact of short-term rentals, because as we can see that everyone is impacted in some way. So thank you for letting me speak.
So I have a number of things to say. First, for anyone who's on the line who's going to want to speak during citizens speak on short-term rentals, I'm going to not allow that until we get a legal ruling. I'm putting a complete freeze on short-term rental discussion until we know where we are in the Ethics Commission. Number two, just as an FYI, if you're waiting on the line for the Chamber of Commerce discussion, that's being continued by their request. So if you have other things to do, we're not going to discuss that tonight. Feel free to stay on we do have other important items on here, but that item will not be happening. I prepared a written statement that in the best of all worlds was going to be at the end of tonight's meeting after we had voted on a short-term rental bylaw, taken by somewhat surprise tonight by an email at 5:45 and finding out that we should have done our homework beforehand, but you can't do your homework if you don't find out about it till 15 minutes before the meeting. And I still am of the belief that we would be not able, if we're not able to do this as a select board, then who can do this? And every other towns did it. I would hope that they found a way to do the short-term rental. But I'm going to read a written statement. Some of it is assuming that we're done with the short-term rental, but we are pretty close if we're allowed to do this. But after what I've heard tonight, I think it's important that I say this. Words have been spoken in very opinions have been expressed and printed. There's nothing more of consequence that select board members can add to the ongoing short-term rental discussion at this time. It is time for the board to move on and get back to the business of governing. The short-term rental debate will linger until at least the town meeting and very likely beyond. It's imperative we continue to work on vital issues such as water quality in Housatonic, infrastructure, affordable and workforce housing, preparing for the town meeting, and much more. This board and the citizens of Great Barrington and Housatonic must work together to heal our divides. Working together means there can be respectful disagreement. We live in a free and democratic system where people can voice their opinions on all sides of issues. For the most part, the emails, letters to the editor, board discussions, and public comments during citizen speak time have been informative and without cause for concern or personal attacks. For those of you who have made this a personal issue, I ask you to rethink your stance. There's no room for personal attacks, bullying, or slanderous comments in any discussion. The disclosure of an appearance of a conflict of interest is a legal matter. We all may have our opinions, but ultimately it is an issue that rests with the Office of the Attorney General. There's one thing that we as Select Board can do to address the valid concerns of many residents. It has to do with complete transparency. There is nothing in the process that requires the person who fills out the disclosure to make it public at an open meeting. I am proposing tonight that we as a Select Board work on a policy or bylaw that requires all town boards and committees to disclose the contents of the appearance of conflict of interest form at a public meeting. This would demonstrate adherence to the law and end all questions regarding participation in said issues. So that is my comment. Our plan tonight, as I said, is to move on from short-term rentals until Monday night we get a ruling. The more I think about it and how overblown this has become, we're going to talk about residential exemptions. That affects all of us. How are we doing that without the Ethics Commission saying we have to all sell our houses and live in a tent in the middle of a field? So I really want to get a legal opinion on this. I think this is, I really believe that we have to be very careful with conflict. I'm not minimizing it, but I'm really uncomfortable that it's taken the position that in order to be a select board member, you probably have to live out of town in order to have a comment on this. And that's being a little facetious. So we'll move on to the town manager's report. Mark?
Thanks, Steve. So this one update or question I have for the board tonight should not come as a surprise to any of you. I've mentioned this in the past couple of weeks, but in light of a dip in COVID cases locally, I wanted to ask the board this evening if you'd like to consider resuming, at least as a board and staff initially, in-person meetings at Town Hall with a virtual attendance option for the public. And assuming that goes well and COVID numbers remain low, we could transition or consider transitioning to hybrid meetings at a later date. So I guess my question to you is, how would you like us as staff to move forward with this?
So my opinion on this, Mark, and I made it clear to you, and I must say, in the last half hour, I've gotten some emails about COVID cases going up again. So we may be talking about another thing that we may have to postpone. But my opinion is, as the board members who are comfortable, we resume in-person board meetings for just the board for 1 or 2 meetings to work out the technology bugs, to once the monitor is up. And then we go into maybe in May hybrid meetings where I'm a firm believer that we should continue as long as it's legal. And I'm hoping the state will make it legal, that if the public wants to access the meetings via virtual method, that we continue to do that. We've had much better participation by the public. But I would like to see us, because from the school district, right now, that's where we are. Administrators and school committee are allowed to participate in person or virtually if they are more comfortable. And the public is still virtual. And I'd like to see us do that because there are some technology glitches that we need to get out of the way. And if we just open it to the public right away, we're likely to have problems. So let's have a couple training sessions first. Anyone else?
I agree. I think that's a good.
Yeah, I agree.
We're fine to continue meeting virtually until July 15th, just to be clear. So we're good.
Yeah, but I think it's, even if it's just 2 or 3 of us. Obviously, since during the whole pandemic, I've chosen to meet in the selectmen's meeting room for a variety of reasons, but I'm by myself. I think we had 1 meeting with 2 of us were also here. So I think if you're comfortable coming in as a select board to our meetings, that's terrific. If you're not, that's fine. It's, as Mark said, we have till July, but let's start working the kinks out and getting ready, coming back together, because there are some members of the public who will be very happy to be in the meeting room and other members who are just as happy eating dinner and watching us from home. So that's where we'll go.
Okay, that's all I have. Thanks, Steve.
Okay. Public hearing. Rushank Patel for iShri-3 LLC, 229 Stockbridge Road for wine and malt package store license. Is there a representative here? If they would be, could they raise their hand? Garfield, go ahead.
I have to recuse myself. I was advised by the ethics committee to recuse myself.
Thank you, Garfield. I'm not seeing anyone here from the applicant, and I'm not going to move ahead without the applicant being here. Mark, do you have any idea that have we been in touch with I'm sure we've been in touch with the applicant.
Yeah, I don't see any familiar names on the application here in the attendee list either. So I would recommend you.
Lee, can you make a motion to continue this to our next meeting, not the 6th, the meeting after that?
Sure. Is that not April 11th, but what date is that?
Yeah, April 11th is fine.
Okay. I make a movement to continue the public hearing for V. Patel for iShri LLC to April 11th.
Second.
And that will be a virtual meet. That will be a virtual and possibly in person for the select board, just to cover all legal grounds. So
Okay.
we will. And it's going to be a long meeting. That could be a real long meeting. We seem to be continuing things there. So I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Eric, you have? Nope, you don't have your hand up. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion. Eric?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
And I. It's unanimous. Lee, do I have a motion on the next one, please?
Yes. In accordance with the this is regarding,
The Chamber of Commerce.
Well, can I just,
yeah, go ahead.
are you making a motion to open the public hearing first?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing for the special permit application from the Southern Berkshire Chamber of Commerce.
Second.
Roll call vote. Garfield.
Yes.
Eric.
Aye.
Ed.
Yes.
Lee.
Aye.
And I. Lee, now please make the motion.
Okay. In accordance with the applicant's written request dated March 28th, 2022, I move to continue the public hearing until our April 11th meeting at 6 p.m. to be held virtual or hybrid.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It's a roll call vote. Any discussion? Roll call vote. Garfield.
Yes.
Eric.
Aye.
Ed.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
And I. It's unanimous. So we will continue. Okay, the next one is previous business. This 2.5 hour meeting is going to turn very quick, very, very fast. Previous business is continued discussion on residential exemption. And let me just give a little background on this, since in the last hour or 2 hours, I've had a phone call and some nice emails. The reason this is on the agenda is typically we try, our new year starts at town meeting time, at the election, really. And we try to clean up some business that we've had, and this has been kind of hanging over us. We said after the residential exemption and the whole study was done, we wanted to have time to think about it, and then we would discuss it. So I'm trying to get some things off of our plate, not very successfully tonight, but hopefully we'll get this off our plate. What we want to do tonight, and understand, we're not committing tonight to, let's say we vote no on this, hypothetically, we're only committing to next year. We're not committing forever that we're not going to do this. So we're taking this 1 year at a time. We'll discuss this again in November when we set the rate, which again, it takes a year to get this in place if we do it. So I thought it was wise to put this on and give it a thumbs up or thumbs down. Either we'll start the Ross to do this, or we turn it down and we move on. So Ross, do you have anything you want to add? In the packet was both the study and a executive summary, by the way. So
May I ask a procedural question?
sure.
We already voted on the current year. We recently had this discussion. We voted not to do this.
We never voted.
Right, and not on this, but remember at the same time we vote on the split rate, the same time. So are we voting early for the next one?
Yes.
So that if we vote yes, they have time. If we okay.
Yeah,
But
that's
we're
what
not
I was
voting-
trying not to as articulately as you just said.
But we're not voting on any of the other, like there are 4 other things we always
No,
we'll
no.
do that then. Got it.
We'll do that then, and that didn't seem to be as large of an interest that this has been for
Right.
years and years. So go ahead, Ross. Do you have anything to add?
Well, I'm sure you have the executive summary that we presented last time. If someone has specific questions, we certainly can ask that. I assume Mike Quinlivan's on. I think he might be muted, but if Mike's on, I mean, he can certainly answer any questions. We can go through it again, or unless somebody's got questions, that we can answer those specifically.
Perfect.
I
Any-
don't know if you hear me, Ross, I'm here.
Okay, there you are. That's good. Does any board members have any questions of either Ross or Mike?
No.
Do I have a motion?
Yes. I'm not quite sure how to frame this though. I make a motion to close the discussion on the residential exemption and move that this is not considered for fiscal year 24. Is that correct?
That seems to be correct to me. Ed, you're muted. I'm sorry. You're still, there you
For
go.
the purpose of discussion.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Go ahead, Ed.
It seems like we could do it at at least experimentally at a very small amount. So we're set up to do it and it becomes an option.
Ross, do you want to comment on that, or Mike?
I'm not sure what you mean, do it a small amount. It's a go, no go. We either do it or we don't do it.
We don't have to do it for a certain number, right? We don't have to exempt 100,000 or 200,000 or, right? The smaller the number we exempt, the less difference there is in different people, but we're set up with a procedure.
Well, yes, but your options under the law are 10 to 35%. So you pick the percent and you look at the numbers and you can make a decision according to your policy at that point.
Right.
Any other discussion?
I just have to ask a clarifying question if I could.
Of course.
I just want to make sure this is not, when we're talking a residential exception, this has nothing to do with the senior tax deferral. Is that correct?
It is
No.
not.
Thank you.
I think this is Ann O'Dwyer, and Ann's on the finance committee, so I will give her the floor if it's Ann.
Hi, Steve. Yes, it is.
Hello.
I'm sorry. Am I not easy to identify there? And
Well,
I see that,
I know a few Anns.
okay. And I just, I see that Eric has his hand up, and Eric, you're on the select board. So would you like to go before me?
No, go ahead, Ann.
Or
Eric,
no?
Eric
Okay.
is
I guess
a
I
gentleman
just want,
and patient.
I just want to speak on in support of Lee's motion to continue the discussion and not vote to implement it at this time. I guess I think about how much research we did for the senior tax deferral, and we even hired an outside firm to help to do the salary study. I guess I just don't feel like we know enough about what would be the implications for a town like Great Barrington if we were to implement this residential exemption. I just think I understand that we talk about it all the time, but I don't feel we've done the same level of due diligence of research that we did for other things that may have financial implications, both for taxpayers and for the town. So that's my feeling.
Thank you, Ann. Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, I guess my thoughts on it after listening to Ross's presentation last time, going through the paperwork for this week, and at the end of the day, I just don't feel that we have the housing stock, the population. I mean, we hear Great Barrington being in different conversations, like with New Orleans or Seattle or San Francisco. If we had those sort of numbers, and this can get spread out over a lot more houses, but I think at the end of the day, we were discussing the burden falls on like 300 houses, and I don't feel comfortable with that. I mean, we hear our taxes aren't easy across the board for any resident. Personally, that's my feeling, and I just don't feel comfortable shifting that burden over to larger houses or second homeowners, however you want to phrase it. So I guess in general, I'm pretty much a hard no on this for this year and next. So.
Yeah. So you're actually a yes on the motion. Hard no.
Yes, hard no on the yes on the motion. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Roll call vote. Garfield.
Aye.
Eric.
Aye.
Ed.
No.
Lee.
Aye.
And it passes 4-1. Thank you, Ross. Thank you, Michael.
You're welcome. Good evening.
You're welcome.
Citizens speak. Michelle, go right ahead.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to speak. As many of you know, it's Michelle LeBear, 70 Division Street. And Division Street runs parallel with Van Duzenville Road. And I went to work 7 o'clock this morning. I drove down Van Duzenville Road on the way home at 5:44, where I stopped at Van Duzenville Road at the railroad project, took pictures and sent them to all of you. Not to be looked at tonight, but possibly sometime this week. Asking each of you if you wouldn't mind taking a drive down Van Duzenville Road and witnessing the hell that I see every day. Now, previously, the railroad project, which I actually am in support of, you would see a few railroad ties here, a truck there. You live with it, it's okay. Now we have a full rail yard, stockyard on Van Duzenville Road, just down the street from the Guthrie Center and Granville House. And it's sprawled all the way down. This is a R2 zone, a residential neighborhood. And I'm hearing an awful lot of talk about people having homes and community and neighborhoods, but it doesn't seem anyone cares about my neighborhood. And I'm speaking for myself tonight. At the very least, I would like to ask each of you to look at the pictures I sent you and take a ride down Van Duzenville Road and ask, would I want this in my neighborhood? This is a disgrace. And I actually have communicated with Representative Pignatelli about it. And I just want to say, I also CC'd Chair Bannon, and Chair Bannon did visit the site. But now I'm bringing the rest of you on it. Because if there's any neighborhood that is getting the short end of the stick, it's Van Duzenville. And there are many other issues going on. And one of the reasons why I left the Finance Committee is I felt restricted in speaking my voice with regard to these matters. And I'm going to defend my neighborhood. And it's one thing, we're talking about people visiting the area and maybe next door to my house, maybe using a swimming pool or something. You gotta be kidding me. You should see what I'm dealing with and my neighbors are dealing with. As a matter of fact, at 5:44, when I was emailing you, Do you ever hear metal being shaved? I don't know what they do. They drill it. It's a horrible sound. This was going on at 5:44. After a long day of work and education, I can't even enjoy my own home. So all I'm asking tonight is that each of you take a ride down Van Duzenville Road and see what's there in an R2 zone, in a residential neighborhood, and ask yourself, would I want this in my neighborhood? Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Anyone else for citizen speak? Not seeing anyone else's hands up. Select board time. Garfield,
Nothing, thank you.
Eric,
All set. Thank you, Steve.
Ed,
Yeah, just quickly, the difference that was explained to me by the Ethics Commission between the vote we just took on the short-term rental is the rule of necessity is if it is necessary, if you're required by law to take that vote. So something like setting the tax rate, health insurance for all employees, things like that, we have no choice. If we do have a choice, we're not. That's not what the rule of necessity is about. That's
again, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'll
Okay.
just use an example. Every town who's voted on this in the state.
right.
So we'll have to get it clarified. Lee, go right ahead.
Yeah, just related to what just occurred, I would just like clarification on the timing of the email that Ed received and who sent it and why we received it 10 minutes prior to the meeting. So I would just like clarification on how that unraveled.
Would you like that now, Steve?
No, not now. Absolutely not now. But we will get clarification. Thank you. I have nothing. Media time. By unanimous, there are 6 panelists and 26 attendees. By unanimous consent, we are adjourned for the evening, and we may be meeting Monday night, depending on what our lawyer tells us. It is posted, so right now we are meeting. Thank you very much, and have a good night.